Welcome to the Made for More podcast. You're joining us in our second series titled Walk With, where we explore different issues of mental health that people could be going through and how we can walk with them well. Although we get mental health professionals in this season, none of them are doctors, so please, if you need help or if anything we discuss in the podcast triggers you, pause the podcast and call your GP. Hope you enjoy. Welcome to episode 2 of our second series.
Let's go.
Let's go.
I'm still here. You haven't cut me yet.
Haven't cut you, but after this, you are
After this, I'm gone. Yeah,
after this, you are.
I thought
cut.
so.
Last episode, I shared a little bit about my journey and where I'm at. I just chronically overshared. So
it was great. It was like a parenting, having a baby special.
Put off.
It definitely wasn't in the notes
To put off
beforehand.
anyone who's thinking about having a child.
Don't have a baby.
Pretty much. So I chronically overshared the last time, and now Jamie, the pressure is on.
It's going to chronically
to take
undershare.
the bad look off me. I'm going to be getting a lot of questions out of you because, I just want to make myself look better and not so much for Trainwreck. That I feel like I made myself look last week.
No, last week was great. And okay, the whole point of this, again, for anyone who missed last week, go back and listen. But we just want to share how we're doing, share a little bit what's going on in our lives, our stories. And probably the key theme in both our stories is the realization that we need to take ownership of our own mental health and actually, actively look to improve it. And that's probably what this whole series is about. That's why we're bringing in these different professionals to help people, look after their mental health and take ownership. So hopefully as we share our stories, people listening, watching online can actually be like, okay, good. That gives me a wee boost to be like, right, what can I do to look after my own mental health as well?
Yeah. And we're not we're not telling anyone that they have to get better. You have to make these calls or you have to do this. What we're doing is inviting people into a conversation that we are having. It's an invitation to better that is out there for them. We believe that there's freedom out there for everyone. We believe that they don't have to live the way that they're living. As you and I have both experienced, we were both living in a way that was really making our lives really small.
Yeah, it was unhealthy.
Yeah. And it is, and that's a reality. It is really unhealthy. Yep. But only we can decide to get better. Only we can see what needs to be done.
Yep.
So this week, episode 2, and so after this, as much as it's great to have you with us, after this today, we're going to have professionals in with us. We have a great lineup.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is.
Yeah, a lot of people are really going to be giving up their time to come in and share with us, which is very exciting.
It'd be great. So make sure, if you are listening, do keep coming back week after week. Because I think there's something in there for everyone as well, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Which has been brilliant. So I'm excited to see how that all plays out.
Yeah. So, Jamie.
Yes. Zara.
To my counselling room.
I know. Welcome.
Welcome to the counselling room. So would you share a little bit about your story, how you feeling? You're already anxiously rubbing your hands together there.
They're sweaty. It's very warm in here.
Anxious sweat. What are your symptoms? So share a little bit about your story. There's something very different going on in your life right now compared to this time last year. Yeah. Let us in on a little bit of that.
Yeah, so I think my journey with my mental health is one of kind of living in complete darkness. I literally had no understanding of any of my emotions, how I was feeling, and I just kind of plowed on regardless. But over the last few years became a lot more aware about, oh, wait a second, that's actually anxiety. That's stress that's causing me to feel this way. Oh, I'm actually feeling a little bit down, and having a language, I think, was key for me to actually be able to go, okay, this is how I'm feeling, and this is why. So that, I suppose, started a couple of years ago, and that in some ways was great because I'm actually able to process it, but in other ways was quite painful because I'm suddenly going, now I'm actually having to deal with my feelings.
Yes.
And I think that's probably a lot of young men in particular probably have to navigate that. Because as men, I was probably very stereotypical, oh, don't talk about my feelings, and just plow on. But it wasn't healthy. And about a year ago, that probably peaked. I'd been struggling with travel anxiety for a while. Traveling away with work was amazing in the sense of great opportunities to see the world and meet amazing people. But when I did it, I would have panic attacks. I would struggle with the lack of control. I would get really stressed. I wouldn't eat. And it was just pretty grim, but I would just suck it up, say nothing, and just keep going. But a year ago...
And sorry, but keeping going actually meant it wasn't as if people couldn't see or you weren't affected when you were away. You were like deeply affected when you were away, but awful. You just kept doing it.
Yeah, it was like, I can still kind of, in a sense, do what I need to do, but I didn't enjoy it. I wasn't happy. It was miserable, basically. And people could probably sense that and see that. Anyone who knew me could see that I was a bit of a shell. And even in the build up to trips, it wasn't just when I was away. So a year ago, then that kind of peaked when I was meant to go to Portugal. In one sense, I was really looking forward to it. But at the same time, I was really nervous. I was worried, will I have a panic attack? What's going to happen? How will I feel? And that really just started to snowball in the weeks leading up to that trip. And we were laughing just before we were recording because we were in a school together about 3 days before I was to go away. And I was like backstage, like just literally like rocking, trying to eat a biscuit because
rocking on a chair.
I hadn't eaten all day. My stomach was churning, and I was just so nervous.
You just look over. I'm doing my part on the stage. I look over next to Jamie. Is he going to share?
Yeah.
You just look over and you're like rocking, eating this biscuit on the thing.
I was so overwhelmed with the emotions and I didn't know what to do. I felt really trapped.
Yeah.
And then after speaking to you, speaking to my wife Naomi, and to Glenn in Portugal, I kind of came to this conclusion, like, I don't have to force myself to do this. Like, this is a choice. And right now I'm actually not healthy enough to do it. It's making me unwell. I'm not eating, I'm not sleeping. My stomach is churning, this is not good for me. This is not healthy. So it was just over a year ago, I then had to pull out of that trip, which was devastating, as a grown man. Like I shared this on the podcast before, to admit I can't do something so simple right now because I'm not in the place to do it. And that was really probably the kick up the backside, basically, for me to go, okay, you need to take ownership of your mental health, Jamie. Like, you can't just keep sucking it up. It's not fair on Naomi, it's not fair on my kids, it's not fair on my staff, it's not fair on me that I just plow along with ignorance, hoping that it'll be fine, when the reality is it wasn't. So I then sort of took the decision, like, right, this is mine to own. I don't have the answers, so I need to go and find them. I need to go and get help. So I started going to counselling, which was brilliant. I had a really good counsellor. It took me a couple of goes to find a counsellor that was a good fit for me. Yeah. Which I think,
that's really important.
Yeah, I think people need to know that. It wasn't that the other two were bad. There just wasn't that trust and chemistry there that I felt I needed. But with the third counsellor, it was perfect. I knew from the first session, this is what I need. It was kind of a no-nonsense approach. It was perfect for me. And alongside that, it was just a lot of other conversations, opening up with people like yourself, other friends, family members, and letting them into how I was feeling. And that made a massive difference. As well as that, it was becoming a lot more self-aware. I'm now very aware of not only the things that make me anxious and stressed, but what they actually cause, the reactions they cause in my body. So the butterfly feeling in my stomach, for me, that is a telltale sign something is making me anxious. Something is stressing me out. In the past, I would have just tried to ignore it. It would have got worse, and then it would have just spiraled. Now, as soon as I feel that, I'll stop myself and say, what is causing this? And how do I go about resolving it? And for me, a thing I've learned through counselling is problem solving. So it is just stopping, finding a solution. It might be calling someone to asking for help. It might be having to, go and deal with something immediately, because I don't like the unknown. So I don't like to wait for an outcome. So I want to get it sorted there and then. But these things just help me to take real ownership. And I'm very aware that I'm not in any way now completely fixed and healthy. Me and my family, we went to Portugal in May as a family. So it was my first trip since the incident where I couldn't go. And it was a nice wee sort of safety buffer, whereas it was my first trip away, but I was with my wife and my kids. And it was great. There were a couple of moments where I was like, oh, I'm out of control here. This is a bit unknown. I I felt the butterflies, but I was able to stop, have a conversation with Naomi, realize, the truth of the situation. And I had the most amazing time. And that was a big success for me and for my family.
I think it's really important what you did there, and to just isolate that our bodies, the same way our homes have alarm systems that indicate that there's a problem, our bodies also do the same thing. So your body's alarm system is the butterflies in your tummy.
Yep.
So they can be going off and you can just ignore them, but the problem doesn't go away. Like if you ignore your fire alarm, the fire isn't stopping just because you're ignoring the alarm. It's still going on and it's still growing. But it's our decision. Are we going to tend to it? Are we not going to tend to it? Because there's a fire happening. There's anxiety happening. There's something happening in our body that our bodies are trying to alert us to, that is not okay, that we need to pay attention to. So are we actually going to do that? Which is quite clearly what you did.
Yeah, and I think that's key. And it's trying to work out what is your alarm.
Yeah.
It's been amazing. Like even since I shared in the podcast, the last series, and just been chatting to friends about my own journey, like they are now starting to share about what it is that they feel, and it's not butterflies. Maybe it's a lack of sleep that's their kind of alarm bell. Maybe it's sweaty hands. It could be physically being sick. Like there's so many different things that your body can do to alert you. But I suppose it's about just taking the time and taking the ownership to go, what is my alarm? Like we all have one. Yeah. And for me, it's the butterflies. So since that trip, I've just continued I'm not in council at the minute. We sort of finished our sessions. I'm not opposed to going back if I need to. I'm actually very open to that. But right now I feel that I've got a lot of different tools that he's given me, and language that I can use to sort of continue to navigate my anxiety. With all the change in our staff and our office sort of situation recently, like that has the ability to bring on anxiety and stress. But I've again been quite pleased how I've navigated that. Yep. To the point now where, and I think it's about a month, I'm going to be heading to Portugal to basically do what I was meant to do a year ago.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, it really is amazing. And I'm very thankful to Glenn and the guys out there in Portugal for kind of letting me come back, because they could have easily just turned their head up and be like, oh, that's frustrating, you've let us down, like draw a line under it. But instead, like it's almost there being part of my redemption here, like where they're kind of giving me this opportunity to go and do it again on my own. So I'm really excited about it. I'm not naive to think that there won't be maybe a wee bit of nerves that a few days before in the airport, as I'm heading off on my own, wee bit of butterflies, whatever it might be. But I know now that I am able to control those things. I have all the techniques. I have the people I can pick up the phone to and chat about.
Yep.
Even the fact that Glenn and the people out in Portugal I'm going to work with are aware of the situation.
Yeah, they know.
Like that's so helpful, So yeah, it's just for anyone listening. I suppose it's just like I've put all these things in place to help me. I feel that for whatever you're going through, find what works for you. Bring other people into the journey. Let them know what's going on, because that's probably for me the biggest thing. Like I haven't had to do this on my own. I've had amazing support. So yeah, I'm excited. So I'm hoping that next time you invite me on the chat, it's about the success of Portugal.
It will be.
Not about like, I didn't go.
Well, I think that one of the things that I remember sitting in your office just when you'd made the call to not go, and I can remember saying, do you because you were saying, I just can't believe I can't do this. Like it's such a small thing. Yeah. But the reality was, as there's a lot of things that a lot of people listening will think, I can't do that, and it's such a small thing, whatever that is for them, whether it's even leaving the house, whether it's driving, whether it's going into school, whether it's doing an exam, whatever that is. And we see other people doing it and we think that's the easiest thing in the world, why can I not just do that? But it's this mentality of you can't do it yet, you can't do it right now, and if you feel that it's hard, then it's just hard. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if, I remember times in my life I couldn't even walk on pavement, and that's just like, that seems crazy, but that was a massive thing to me. So what is your thing is your thing, and it's don't ever try and kind of minimize it. But it's this mentality of, I remember saying to you, you can't do it yet. You can't do it yet, but you will look back and it will be something that you look back and you're like, can I remember a time I couldn't do this? And that seems so crazy to you because you've come so far, and that's going to be like, you'll go to Portugal this time and it'll probably be a little bit of those butterflies, as you say. Then you'll go again and again and again, and suddenly you'll look back and think, remember I couldn't do that. Like that just seems like a different person. Like you look back and you're like, I can't even recognize that, Jamie. Like I can't even remember that person or those mindsets that I had to lead to those behaviors.
And that's the journey. And I think that's what I've learned, the last few years. Like I'm just constantly on this journey, and there will be ups and downs, but I have to take ownership of it. I can't just assume that it will be okay and hope that someone else fixes it for me. Like I have to fight to keep feeling healthy. And again, that was a big thing. Like I can't do something so simple. I think a lot of people probably feel that embarrassment and that weight. But the reality is there's so many different things that we can do that other people can't do. Like even like with this job, I stand up on the stage and talk in front of hundreds of people all the time. And there's lots of people who be like, oh, I could never do that. There's so many things that like people can do and others can't, and that doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's journey is different. Everyone is a different individual. So just encourage anyone listening, watching, like just start that journey now to recovery. It just takes that mentality of, right, I don't want to be unhappy. I don't want to keep living in this moment. What can I do to get better? And
what I would just say to you and to anyone listening is you're probably one of the like people that I notice in my life most set on getting better and always improving. So even if you see something coming up, you're like, oh, that would maybe stress me out. You always work to get better. You always work to problem solve it, or you always work to, okay, I don't need this to be an issue. So how can you're always striving to like better yourself, and you work really, really hard at that. So obviously you've worked really hard in the past year for that very specific reason, especially for travel and stuff like that. But just in general life, when something comes up that you're just like, I don't like that. Like, I don't think that I should be like that, or I don't think that I want to carry that in my character, in my personality, or just in my life. You really work on how you want to see the change. So you really name the change that you want to see, and then you work to actually see the change. And it's something that so many of us just, we don't like stuff, or we feel anxious, or there's something like, I would love to travel, but I just can't travel. And we put that down to something that we just can't do, and we write it off. But actually what you really challenge us with is the fact that that's not really the case. That when you work at it, when you set goals, when you're only responsible for you, nobody else is responsible for that. So we need to take, as you say, ownership of that. But the fight to get better, like it is a fight. It's a fight between like your mind. Yep. So it's actually massive. So Jamie, thank you for being on. That's very challenging, and I'm sure a lot of people got a lot out of that. So that is episode 2 done for today. If you haven't seen episode 1, go back and play that. Episode 2 was here today, and episode 3 next week. We are joined by a lady called Deborah Nelson from Impossible Mental Health. So It's going to be really good. It's going to be exciting. And she is, unlike Jamie, a professional.
Happy days.
So happy days to get some wisdom in this place. So yes, thank you for joining us. And as we say, tune in next week.
Thank you.